कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं, माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं.
Dr. LEENA GUPTA, a well-known accomplished physician practicing as a critical care in San Francisco, California in several prime hospitals. She is an American physician of Indian origin and believes in advocating for the patients and educating physicians from India. She is one of the forerunners of API, the largest American Association of Physicians of Indian origin in the US, and regularly comes to India to contribute to the Indian diaspora by educating physicians and medical students and residents as well, volunteering in some states in India. She is a board certified physician in internal medicine. She works as a hospital based physician in the hospital and in the ICU. Her passion is in treating critical sick patients, especially suffering from stroke. She has traveled to different countries around the globe, including her home country, India, to conduct stroke awareness workshops and ENLS courses. ENLS stands for Emergency Neurological Life Support, training physicians and specialists to manage patients critically in the first few hours of neurological emergency. She is also working on some projects like Adopt a Village, an initiative to bring preventive care to the forefront of several chronic diseases. I hereupon take true pride and privilege in introducing to you Dr. LEENA GUPTA.
Hey Sanjeev, how are you? How are things with you?
Hi LEENA Gupta ji. Hi, namaskar. How are you doing? Yeah, we are
I'm
all
doing
doing
fine
fine here in
too.
Hyderabad and in India. Yeah, absolutely fine. And lot of viewers are already waiting to listen to you on the Doctor's
Happy
Day.
Doctor's
and
Day
first and foremost,
to all my
let me wish you a
doctor
very
friends
happy
in
Doctor's Day.
India.
And to all the doctors on the planet, I wish through Yashodhara TV, everybody a very happy Doctor's Day.
I'm doing
Yeah,
fine.
let's get into our program and try to understand more about your noble profession on this auspicious day of being the Doctor's Day globally. Yeah, LEENA GUPTA ji, can you add more about your journey of childhood in India?
So I was born in a historical town called Tatanagar or Jamshedpur, the famous city of the Tatas. My dad, he worked for Tesco, and I did part of my elementary schooling there. I moved to Mumbai, where I went to Sophia College for high school and college. And then I moved back to Bhopal since my parents wanted us to develop a rapport with our uncles and aunts. And I grew up there, did my medical school training from Gandhi Medical College. And then I migrated to Orlando, Florida, where I did my Masters of Public Health from University of Central Florida. It's after that we gave our exams, the USMLE exams, and then I completed my training in internal medicine from North Shore University, Long Island Jewish Medical Center in New York. And then I completed my neurocritical care fellowship in University of Mississippi in Jackson. And I moved to California, practicing there as a critical care intensivist and as a hospitalist.
So it was such a great, lovely introduction that you have explained about your own self. Very glad to know, madam. Can you tell me, why did you become a doctor in first place, and who actually inspired you to become the one?
Actually, my dad inspired me the most. He's the one who taught me and motivated me to always leave a legacy, change something in the world. He himself was from a very poor family, and he rose to great heights, worked for one of the biggest and the richest industrialist, Mr. Mittal. He inspired me to work for the Indian community and for the poor people. I think he saw in me that I had compassion for the people, wanted to save lives, had the desire to treat people. My mom, she is also a very compassionate, and I still remember during my childhood days, we always read Amar Chitra Katha during the dinner table. We always picked up one Amar Chitra Katha and we would discuss, what are the goods, what are the bads, what are the lessons we learned. And that's how, my older sister, Manju, who also inspired me, as well as my brother.
Actual difference you might have seen or experienced from the day when you have just passed out from your college to the day what you are working today in profession?
In the 1990s, when I came out of medical school, freshly graduated out, we tend to have absolutely no experience and a state of overdrive. There are several factors which you're overdriven by: lack of appropriate mentorship at that time, lack of healthy diet, lack of good sleep hygiene, and you actually tend to spend more time with the patient. And come to think of it now, through the years of experience which we have had, and now with as a result of hospital administration, new technology, medical records, one tends to spend more time or less time with patients. So there's less of interaction, FaceTime interaction with the patient and the physician. And so that's the key difference which we are losing. There is less of patient satisfaction as a result. Patient-physician relationship suffers from that. And I think that's the biggest difference there between what happened a few decades ago and what is happening right now.
Yeah. So doctor's life is very very stressful and tough, because you all see a lot of sickness, sadness, despair, and even deaths. Leena Gupta ji, how do you handle such stressful life all around you? And moreover, what would you recommend to the upcoming doctors how to cope up with such sort of stress in their lives, in their future lives ahead?
It is true that a doctor's life is very tough, and we become resilient through the years, facing all these stressors, as well as the society perceives as the infinite ability of us to tolerate physical, mental, emotional stress. So we are chronically stressed out, and nowadays there are a lot of programs, wellness programs, arranged by healthcare organizations. There are restrictions on the number of work hours, and even for doctors to lead a healthy life, a healthy lifestyle, so as to practice what you preach. Recently, I attended a national organization annual meeting, which was primarily focused for the physicians. Their theme was "Heal the Healers." So there is more and more increased awareness of physician burnout, lack of sleep, more restricted hours of working, and hence I believe physicians are becoming more aware of our shortcomings, and they're getting healthier.
Dr. Leena Gupta ji, tell us more about your other interests besides being a critical care physician.
I live in California. It's a sunny state in the US. And the time when I'm not working in the hospital, I do like to de-stress with sometimes painting. I love to write some literary works like poetries or articles, as well as a lot of hiking. And that really helps me unwind from my hectic days, the days when I'm working in the hospital or in the clinic.
Yeah, Dr. Leena Gupta ji, we all know that you are very passionate about stroke studies. And what is your message for all of us to understand these stroke studies more detailedly? And in fact, what is your plans, future plans in handling and achieving more success in this arena?
According to the American Heart Association, 1 in every 40 seconds is diagnosed with stroke, and 1 in every 19 deaths is caused by stroke. So it is a leading cause of death and disability, one of the leading causes of death and the leading cause of disability in the US and in worldwide, which includes India. Even in the US, there has to be more awareness. We are trying to raise more awareness towards the stroke. We have had lots of awareness for cardiac heart attacks. I recently traveled to Hyderabad on behalf of AAPI, American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, and conducted a course, ENLS. It stands for Emergency Neurologic Life Support, and it essentially trains physicians, young physicians, residents in training and fellows in training, as well as young physicians and older physicians of different specialties, especially in the ICU, neurologist, stroke specialist, basically training them how to take care of patients in emergency in the first few hours, especially in an acute neurological emergency. And it was a very successful course, and I plan to conduct this throughout India. I have already conducted in few other places, in Bhopal, as well as in Lucknow.
Leena Gupta ji, how do you see that great relationship between a doctor and a physician globally now? And what do you recommend in increasing the more mutual respect and transparency between the doctor and a patient?
I think there is a lot to be said about patient-physician relationship in India and worldwide as well, and maybe in different parts of the country or different parts of the world. I think patient-physician relationship is based on mutual trust, transparency, confidentiality. Those are the 3 big pillars which are quite lacking in India. I understand that the society or general people, they think physicians are God, and that they should not be questioned about their own diagnosis, which I completely do not agree. I think the patient has a right to their own diagnosis, and the physician should make it a point to explain to the patient their diagnosis and what their prognosis is based on that, or what their options are, rather than discussing with their relatives or sons and daughters or their parents. It is the right of the patient to know about their own body and to make their own decision if they're above 18 years of age. And the second thing is the transparency. and the confidentiality. The confidentiality should be maintained. In the US, there's something called a HIPAA, HIPPA, which essentially guards the patient's records to be given to anyone or to be discussed with anyone. I think that needs to be addressed as well now in India. So those are my two suggestions in India.
Let me ask you a very, very curious question, or if not, you can think interesting question. In what way being a doctor in West is that different to being a doctor in India? Miss, in what way can you differentiate, though the profession being the same, but working on a different platforms or in different continents?
Overall, doctors in the US, they are more thorough, and the reason the reason behind this is because of the availability of the resources, the medical records which we can access, and sometimes you can say the fear of malpractice. Whereas I would not say these are non-existent, but malpractice is not that common in India. Doctors are not able to be thorough because most of them, if they're not in the metropolitan cities or bigger hospitals, they do not have medical records to which they can have access to, so that they can access the history of the patient, the medications they take. So that becomes quite a challenge to Indian doctors, especially in the rural community or smaller towns, or if they have private practices, because they are not obligated to keep medical records. Whereas doctors over here, even in their clinic, even if they have solo practice, they are obligated to keep all their medical records and everything. Most patients have insurance, health insurances, whereas that's not true in India. So those are the big disparities. But nevertheless, Indian doctors in the US, they are considered one of the smartest, even compared to the American counterparts. And we also know that there is a lot of medical tourism, which is pretty popular in India because of the low healthcare cost, and which is very gratifying, and I'm proud of that, because how India is able to curtail healthcare cost compared to the US and still give similar service and similar outcomes. But remember, this only happens in metropolitan city hospitals or bigger chain of hospitals, where they are able to maintain a high level of standard healthcare standards.
So during COVID and post-COVID, what do you think is the role of the doctors? Means, is there any change in the future coming days? Can you elaborate on this?
During COVID, it was a complete global, unprecedented war. The hospital was a battlefield. The doctors were the warriors. And there were lots of casualties. Like how, or what Lord Krishna said, the dharma for Kshatriyas, their role is to fight in the battlefield. Similarly, for doctors, the battlefield was a hospital, and we worked every single day to care about the patient, to help them survive, not caring about our own lives. I think That was the biggest call for us. And even during post-COVID, we have had lots of challenges with vaccination, social isolation. There has been still ongoing frustration, some controversies, but we have to understand that the society has also become frustrated with multiple theories being passed away or being circulated around in the social media, and that has been quite a challenge. However, I think overall the society has done really good in terms of getting vaccinated, social isolation, respecting other people's privacy, and as well as getting more and more people vaccinated. I think we as physicians, healthcare workers, and in different fields, for people who are not healthcare workers, they have contributed immensely to the society as well. A worker who'd dropped in food for COVID patients, or even to the hospitals when there was a splurge of patients in the second phase and third phase. So I think we have to thank not only the doctors, but all the non-healthcare workers also, who equally contributed in their own way. The mothers who stayed back home, the workers who stayed back home, they were also deprived of work, but they stayed back, they maintained their calm, they maintained their support, and I think we all should be appreciative of that.
Your book on COVID is available in Amazon with the title Grapes of Pandemic. Very interesting title. So what inspired you to write this book actually?
So as COVID hit the entire world, where we saw a lot of grief, a lot of despair, many deaths in our close ones, in our far relatives, far away friends, and people we did not know. We saw it in the news coverages. And I think we all got affected by that. We became lonely since we got isolated from each other. But we came out of the loneliness. We talked to ourselves, and that's when I decided to write so many poetries, so many articles on how we felt, how we supported each other, how we changed ourselves. And this book, Grapes of Pandemic, is my contribution to the world, to show my support to all the COVID victims, and to all the people who survived, who were strong, who changed, and I personally was able to survive every day when I was sad or lonely or stressed out or lost a colleague of mine. I would write a poetry and feel a little bit unnerved, a little bit more calmer, and able to face the next day.
Finally, I would love to ask one final question. So what will be that one legacy that you want to leave after working in this noble profession for such a long time?
Benjamin Franklin put in this way: if you would not be forgotten as soon as you are dead, either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. Leaving a legacy through your work means doing something worth writing about and changing the world. I'm trying to follow his principles and trying to write or trying to do something for this world so that I could leave a small little legacy.
So it has been a great conversation, Dr. Leena Gupta ji. We all understood, or in fact, our limited knowledge about your noble profession, our limited knowledge about your noble profession has little bit enlightened and has been elaborated. And thank you for that patience-full discussion altogether. So I wish we all have a great time altogether, and all the viewers of Yashodhara TV would also really enjoy listening to your great words, inspiring words, and in fact very knowledgeable words. So taking on this very good note, Leena Gupta ji, we wish you a very, very happy Doctor's Day once again and a great time ahead in your life, and
Happy
all the very
Doctor's
best
Day,
from Yashodhara TV,
all my
Sanjeev Nayak.
doctors.